Hello, this is Commander Carlroth, bringing you a new StarBase 118 podcast. In this series, I will bring you stories, technical information, news of the fleet, all of them making for an interesting session. So lay back, and I hope that you enjoy it. It is always a great thing to welcome new members to the best fleet on the internet. I am Commander Marcus Dickens of the USS Invicta, and I would like to welcome the following graduates for the months of May and part of June. Nathaniel Wilmer of the USS Constitution B, Esimi Larand of the USS Gorgon, Taglin Alce of the USS Constitution B, Kasema Dowupa of the USS Gorgon, Duncan McPherson of the Embassy of Duronis, Miles Driscoll of the USS Constitution B, Aquila Marius of the USS Gorgon, Christopher Lambert of the USS Darwin A, and Stephanie Harrick of the USS Invicta. Welcome to the fleet. Lieutenant Mira Etho will tell us about the annual award ceremony that took place in June. If you are between the awarded, congratulations. If not, it's time to aim for the next year.
This year, StarBase 118 celebrated its first June annual award ceremony. The ceremony itself is 20 years old and recognizes the amazing writers who have gone above and beyond in their time with the fleet. It could be anything from a display of great leadership to crafting excellent and creative stories for their characters and their ship. In the early days of these ceremonies, they were commonly done as a sim, which was sent to all the active ships in the fleet. But we have grown so large now that it takes a lot more to recognize the greatness in our community. This year, the Captain's Council changed the award ceremony from December to June to have a celebration in the birth month of the fleet. Fleet Captain Reynos and his awards committee created a massive venue that expanded the awards from a one-day event to one that spanned the entire week. Many even logged into the forums and changed their avatars to their characters in evening clothes to celebrate the occasion. This year was also the first time in the history of the fleet that an ensign won the Order of the Valiant Heart, which recognizes the best counselor in the fleet. Want to know more? Head over to the official StarBase 118 wiki and search the keywords Award Ceremony 2016 for the list of all the winners.
The Federation News Services bring us the latest news about what's happening in the known galaxy. Check it out to be up to date about the recent events.
Hello, I'm Stella Luna, and you're listening to the Federation News Service. The Daystrom Institute is in mourning today, as word hit the Federation subspace network that two of its most prominent researchers had been killed by what the Zenkethi government is calling a renegade crew, after Zenkethi forces attacked and boarded the diplomatic vessel, the Nancy Hertford. Such an action is in direct violation of the Deneb Conventions on Diplomatic Relations. Using his trademark flowery language, Vice Admiral Charles Haywood, serving his terminal billet as commander of the Federation diplomatic courier, the Nancy Hertford, had this to say when asked about the Zenkethi government's claim.
If those are renegades, I'm a donkey's ass. They knew we were carrying an ambassador and half his team to Intar. That alone would give them reason to attack. We all know they only uphold the Geneva Accords when it suits their purposes. Lord knows this isn't the first time they tried to attack diplomatic missions. It was just bad luck that our only escort was a fighter squadron instead of the destroyer that's usually sent.
Jack Elmlinger, the Federation's first official ambassador to the Three Peoples, had a similar, though more diplomatic response in his statement, and went on to say, "Diplomats have always been seen as targets by those who believe violence is the only path to an end. From Surak to Rowcroft to Stevens and even to Gorkon, those who work toward peace are just as often seen as a threat to those who seek or profit from war. I'm just glad I didn't join that so very long and tragic line, though a man I consider a dear friend did." You've been listening to the Federation News Service. I'm Stella Luna. Good evening.
We all know we depend a lot on technology, and it's important for us to know how this technology works and how we can get the best use of it. To help us with this matter, Lieutenant Izzo will bring us a segment about an important piece of technology of any starship.
Greetings, I'm Lieutenant Mira Izzo of StarBase 118, and today I shall be giving you a brief rundown on a key piece of Star Trek tech. This month, we shall be discussing the warp propulsion systems you'd typically find aboard a starship. The first thing to note is that today we will not be talking about the warp core. The warp core, or to name it properly, the matter-antimatter reactor assembly, although integral to achieving warp, is more properly part of the ship's power systems, as it has no inherent purpose in achieving warp beyond the fact that it is the only system on a starship capable of generating enough power to actually power the warp propulsion systems. For us, our concerns begin with the nacelles. Power is injected in the form of energetic plasma from a series of EPS power taps into a set of warp field injector coils via a plasma injector. Each nacelle will have its own set of coils and a single injector. The plasma then stimulates the production of multi-layered spatial field, which warps the fabric of space-time, allowing the space inside it to move independently of the rest of the universe. Plasma is not constantly supplied to the warp coils, however. The plasma injector fires sequentially depending on the warp flight function being executed, commands reaching it over 12 redundant links to the optical data network. Another important point to consider is that adding additional warp coils, or indeed extra nacelles, does not make a ship able to attain higher warp speeds. It is the rate that the energized plasma passes through the coils that determines the speed. Adding additional coils will, however, make the flight more stable. As a result, 2 nacelles is usually regarded as the most efficient design, with 1 nacelle being far too easy to overload. However, there are several notable classes that employ extra, such as the Dakota class. The last notable feature of the warp propulsion system is the Emergency Separation System, or ESS. In the event that the plasma injectors suffer a catastrophic failure, or if there is catastrophic damage to the support pylons, a series of 10 explosive structural latches can be fired, launching the nacelle away from the ship at a speed of roughly 30 meters per second. This does, of course, rather hamper one's ability to use the warp drive and should only be considered in the most dire of circumstances. This is all for warp propulsion this month. If you want to see a piece of tech featured here or would like something clarified, please feel free to write it in your requests and comments. This has been Lieutenant Izzo, signing off.
Past is important. We must know our past to improve or we'll be condemned to repeat it. In order to learn from our past and have a good perspective of where we come from, the history team worked hard to reconstruct the history of the Starship Columbia. Let's hear what they brought to us.
Thanks to the efforts of our dedicated community history team, the rich history of the USS Columbia has been excavated and added to our wiki for historical purposes. The Columbia has had 3 commanding officers in our game: Mal Avatar, Benjamin Livingston, and most recently, Breck. Using our email archives, other wiki records, and community news, log entries from Captains Mal Avatar and Ben Livingston's era have been recovered, as well as a complete crew history, complete awards history from all 3 eras, and a full episode guide which details every mission undertaken by the ship's crew. The Columbia's updated wiki area also features a graphics page, shore leave logs written as poetry, and a list of the namesakes of the Columbia. Head on over to the USS Columbia wiki page to read more about this proud ship and her history. You can learn more about the community history team or join them on the forums.
Are all sentient beings treated equally on the Federation? We like to think that they are, but it seems that there are some that disagree with that statement. There's been questioning to that equality that will be explained on the next segment. Do artificial life forms have rights as Federation citizens?
Luna's local elections are still 6 weeks away, but a holographic candidate seeking election in the Tycho City Council has brought unprecedented controversy to the normally uneventful campaign period. The hologram, who is a human and male in appearance, and goes by the name Tenebrius, submitted the required documentation to Luna's Commission for Elections last week. Drawing comparisons to other famous historical firsts, Tenebrius describes sentient holograms as the latest in a long line of victims of institutional disenfranchisement. Addressing supporters at a rally in Aldrin Park, he said, "There will never be true equality for all sentient beings until all sentient beings are represented in our parliaments, our deliberative assemblies, and yes, our local councils." Tenebrius's candidacy has been supported by the Earth-based organization Next Frontier, which raises awareness for holographic rights and works towards the integration of sentient holograms into mainstream society. The election of holographic beings to political office is explicitly stated as one of Next Frontier's core objectives. Just hours after the documents were filed, however, a legal challenge to Tenebrius's candidacy was lodged with the Commission for Elections, arguing that holograms are constitutionally ineligible to be elected to representative office. "Our electoral laws are quite clear," said incumbent Councillor Barry Venna, whose signature appears on the petition. "To be eligible for election in a local council, one must be a Federation citizen, legally resident, in Tycho City, and enrolled on the electoral register. Last time I checked, holograms aren't citizens, they don't have residences, and they can't vote. Case closed." The Commission for Elections must issue a ruling on the legal challenge within 7 days. However, the losing party has the right to appeal the ruling to Luna's High Court.
If you're listening to this podcast, you're probably a Star Trek fan, or at least interested in this universe. And surely you know that there are many more things besides the series and the movies. From time to time, we bring some book reviews to this podcast, so you know what's out there that might or might not be canon, either on the Prime timeline, the Kelvin timeline, or any other. This time we have Lieutenant Commander Nugra, who brings us a book review. All yours, Commander.
Hello, this is Lieutenant Commander John Nugra of the USS Athena, bringing you a book review of the Autobiography of James T. Kirk by David A. Goodman. As a Captain Kirk fan, I grew up with him as my hero. So when I found this book, I was very skeptical on how well this book would read, but how it would also fit in the canon. To say the least, I was pleasantly surprised on the quality and the accuracy of this book. Not only did David Goodman bring together every bit of the original series, it explains quite a lot about the men and women that appeared in the show with no explanation. One example would be Sharon from the second season episode Shore Leave, the woman that Kirk runs into. They not only explain who she is, but she is a major part of the first part of the book. Though the autobiography is based in the Prime timeline, there is a very strong nod to the Kelvin timeline by J. Abrams. The way they do it is the introduction of Captain Kirk's birth. He explains how he was aboard ship when he was born. The ship in name is the USS Kelvin, which appeared in the 2009 Star Trek movie. Everything happened just as it did in the movie, except the attack from the Romulan mining vessel. So, overall, I give this book a 5 out of 5 stars, and I would recommend it to any diehard Star Trek fan out there. Again, this is Lieutenant Commander John Nugra of the USS Athena, and I will see you next time with another book review.
We have reached the end of this podcast, but don't be sad. There will be another soon with many more interesting features that we hope will grab your attention. This is Commander Kelrod, and in the name of StarBase 118 community, thank you for listening.